A little known trivia fact for the Scary Alvarez podcast is on my first one I did with the Ruchis. I did jump around, which apparently some of the kids like, but starting with episode 2, I decided to go back to the classics, and which is my favorite Badger song, "Build Me Up, Buttercup." So, and I've been working on that, Monty. I've been working on that fade a little bit. You might not know this. I hang out with a lot of DJs
Okay.
overseas. Oh yeah, yeah. Some of the big guns. David Guetta was on his he was on my plane recently, and they've been helping with the fade, but I still have a little bit of work to do. So we'll take care of that.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded good. Did you say David Guetta, David Guetta? I know exactly what you're talking about. I call him David G. Did you just name drop him? You're hanging out with David G?
Yeah, David G and some of the boys, Calvin Harris, and I was at a kind of a weird festival in Bulgaria with them over the weekend. You might know my wife, who's a lovely woman, Cindy. She gave me a permission slip to do this, and I took the jet over there. But hey, I'm back because this is an important one.
Yeah.
I've been having this one circled for a while, Monty.
No, it's great to be here. It's great to reconnect with you. And let's have some fun. Let's talk some good stuff here.
Let's do it. Well, of course, to the guests, it's welcome aboard. But to my audience of millions, welcome to the Scary Alvarez podcast. I'm of course Scary Alvarez, Wine Island enjoyer, Sherry Wine destroyer, Jake's Ferguson's grandpa, and Cindy's plus one when she'll have me. And I'm very excited. We did a little bit of a teaser here today to welcome one of my favorite Badgers of all time, who probably just scored another touchdown against Nebraska, Montee Ball. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. I appreciate this. It's always humbling, right? Having folks reach out to hop on their podcast. And of course, when you did, I was like, oh yeah. I mean, I follow you on Twitter. I was like, I gotta, or excuse me, on X. So I had to most definitely say yes to this. So thank you for having me.
Well, a good decision by you, of course. And I call it Twitter. If Elon Musk wants to throw me a couple million to promote this porn bot platform he's working on right now, I'm happy to do so, but I'm not going to do it for free. So it's Twitter for me.
I love it. I love it. I call it Twitter as well. I just wanted to, be politically correct right there. But it's Twitter. It's Twitter.
Great minds think alike. Well, anyway, welcome aboard, and this is a very special moment for the podcast today. You're the first ex-Wisconsin running back to jump on, if I don't count the Hebrew Hammer, Matt Bernstein, and I don't. Love
he's
Matt, but
he's quite the character. He's gonna have some words about that one.
well, we've talked. He's been on before, and I understand he did step into the tailback role on a couple of occasions to save the day. Once against Penn State, of course.
Yeah.
We've gone over that, but I feel like there needs to be a little bit of a distinction between the quote unquote Badger tailback room and the Hebrew Hammer. He kind of has his own wing, so we'll give him that.
Yeah, I agree. He's and I think he likes that as well too, right? You don't want to. Obviously, all of us running backs who went through the program, we have our things that stand out that sort of differentiates us from the others. But in a sense, we're all one and the same. I think he likes to stand out, right? To be that oddball of that hybrid running back / fullback. Long story short, very important position that we needed.
It was, and also he kind of has the distinction in being the only Wisconsin running back ever to run for over 110 yards, and then after the fasting was over, destroyed 10 Big Macs. So he's been very proud about that. In fact, he wanted that hung up on Camp Randall he wanted to retire the number of 10, not his actual number, but the number of 10 Big Macs he had. He'll appreciate this. He knows. He knows he's one of the real ones.
That's him. Love the guy. Love the guy.
Well, the 12 years since you played for the Badgers has gone by even faster than my 40 time. So get us up to speed on what you've been doing, especially recently. And I know you had some very important work before and during the pandemic, helping people. But just let us know what you're up to.
Oh my goodness, where to begin? Gosh, it's been that long already. Goodness gracious. This is my 34th year. I'll be 34 this year. My gosh. But what have I been doing since? So currently living in Denver, but prior to this, obviously after my door closed in the NFL. And of course, I've been pretty open about my struggles with alcoholism. I'm a proud father. I'm a proud recovering um, addict in a sense, right? From alcoholism, and so I'm very very proud of that. So since then, I wanted to get into the field of behavioral health, whatever that may look like, right? Of course, after the game of football, it's more so of like, what other skills do I have? But I think what has happened in my life really propelled me in this direction of, what, I'm here to help folks. I'm here to help folks. And so that's what I wanted to do. So I hopped into behavioral health there in Madison, Wisconsin, as soon as I retired, with an organization, a local provider actually called Sankofa, and I was doing case management there actually. And after pretty much social work, right after that case management stint that I did, I tell you what, I had a lot of respect for case managers across the country because that is a lot of work, a lot of work, a lot of vicarious trauma as well that you can take home that you really don't want to. But from that, I had the opportunity, of course, of jumping on to the Wisconsin Voices for Recovery as a grant maker, right? So I had the lovely opportunity of reviewing proposals. So Wisconsin Voices for Recovery got X amount of dollars, right, from the state. From state got it from CDC, all that bureaucratic stuff, and so of course we got X amount of dollars, and we had the opportunity, of course, of to review proposals from local providers, right, and pretty much grade them, right, on which proposals aligned with our goals under the umbrella, right, of recovery, right, providing recovery spaces, providing recovery treatment for folks in the community. And so that was a wonderful opportunity for me to really get grasp the business, right, of grant making, what all goes into grants, a lot of the red tape, a lot of the um, meetings that go into that. And so it was a fascinating time of just getting the opportunity to learn, right? To learn about all of that. And so from there, I went to obviously what happened during the pandemic, right? The stay-at-home order kind of shut a lot of stuff down. And so I had the opportunity of joining a local provider. This is after Wisconsin Voices for Recovery, of joining a local provider who was selected from the state, right? To sort of champion, in a sense, this program for folks that are experiencing homelessness. So long story short, folks who are experiencing homelessness, once the stay-at-home order was put into place, it's like, okay, where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? And so they were stationed, in a sense, at hospitals, or excuse me, at hotels. And I was selected to live at the hotel in 2020 for 7 to 8 months, as a support specialist of getting folks who were experiencing homelessness connected to resources in the community. That being, obviously, if they have any SSI benefits, calling up Social Security Administration, all that jazz, right? Getting their paperwork sent in, getting their mail sent to the hotel, right? Because they are experiencing homelessness, they have no address. A lot of things, right? Getting them connected to Catholic Charities for housing navigation, right? Because unfortunately, folks who are on fixed incomes, landlords really don't like that, and so there were a lot of meetings of myself, Catholic Charities, the person who's experiencing homelessness, and the landlord, right? Of pretty much just vouching for this person that, hey, they made a mistake, they slipped up, they lost everything, but they're trying to get back on their feet, and so you'll be a wonderful opportunity for them to really have a safe space to lay their head.
So you were. I mean, it's incredible work,
Yeah,
Montee, and if I'm hearing you correctly, you were sort of an advocate for these individuals who might not have had anyone else, and in most cases did not have anyone else to serve that role for them, to get them just their feet on the ground so they can do the basics, have a place to put their head, possibly some work to do, some health care, things like that, right?
yeah, literally, exactly. I mean, it was all of the above, right? Of pretty much helping them to get back on their feet. And I did that for 7 to 8 months. And of course, there's many stories of unfortunate situations that popped about because, of course, what comes with folks experiencing homelessness, that population, just going to call a spade a spade. Of course, we see a lot of drug use. We see at some points violence. And so in these hotels, there was a lot of phone calls at 2 a.m. I had to come downstairs and de-escalate situations, right? Manage situations, call taxis for folks. But again, just being that support system, right? Being that resource for them of who can I call, where can I go to get started on job training, to get started on resume building, all that stuff. And so for me, um, I've never experienced something like that where I didn't have anywhere to go, no home, but mentally, right? The substance kind of had me, in a sense, homeless. of not knowing who I am, where I'm going, what I'm doing with my life, the mistakes that I made. And so for me, it was mutually beneficial, right? The most important of helping the clients, but of course, it was reinstilling my passion.
Well, that is just wonderful stuff. And I mean, a lot of Wisconsin fans, they know the on the field stuff, and maybe heard some of the off the field things
Yeah,
that you mentioned, really into addiction and stuff. But to hear the story come full circle, and hear some of the great stuff that you're doing to give back to the community, which obviously you just mentioned, it's fulfilling for you too personally. There is a lot of selfishness, and it's in a way you were kind of like a house fellow in one of those homeless
right.
places, having to deal with things that pop up at 2 in the morning, and it's just not to compare a dorm to it, but you know what I mean. It's the same sort of vibe.
Yeah, yeah, literally. That's a great comparison, a great parallel. I mean, it's yeah, a house manager, and it was around the clock. So it was an LTE position, so that came about with just different laws regarding working laws or labor laws, excuse me. But it was 7 days a week. I would, obviously breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I would push the cart down the hotel hallway and set their breakfast near their door. It was an opportunity to serve. That's really what it comes down to, an opportunity to serve, and a humbling experience for me. And so
Well,
from
that's yeah. I'm sorry about you. That is fantastic. My hats off to you, and I almost feel like we're talking about the mundane things like football here, but I'm glad you got to lead with letting my audience know the important stuff that you've been doing since you left the field. I think that's fantastic. We can loop around back on that, but
yeah,
so in the interest of I may seem a little trite here, but we're going to talk about some football stuff. Hope that's all right.
of course, of course. I
Let's
mean,
do
we,
it.
we can't we can't finish this without talking football.
Absolutely. Well, I do want to start here, and I know you know this from mentioning you've been on Twitter, but I recently did Badger Mount Rushmore. You, Ron Dane, Melvin Gordon, Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah,
And I know that was an honor of a lifetime for you, certainly. What other Badger backs had a good case to be on that Mount Rushmore?
other Badger backs that had a case. You said so. This had Ron, myself, Melvin, and JT, right?
That's correct.
Oh my gosh, I remember seeing that. So this is the tough
Oh, you
part.
didn't see that? Okay, I thought it might be just out of frame behind you and some massively framed poster where you took a screenshot of
No,
my
no.
account. But that's fine. I'm sure it's just off screen. But yeah, that was the official one because if I name it, it's official. But it was quite a debate about some other guys who certainly, not to say that anyone on wasn't deserving, but to maybe expand this to 4 to 5, 6, 7, 8 spots. Who else who do you think has a good case to be on there?
Honestly, we can talk about so many different guys, man. I mean, my gosh. I mean, of course, I remember seeing the list, but for me, it's just my recency bias and having the opportunity to play with him, to watch him, literally to watch him study the game, to watch him be such a great team player. And just how pivotal his role was when he got in the game. James White, man. I
Yeah.
have to go with James White on that. And gosh, I know that I'm leaving a lot of guys out there, right? I'm leaving a lot of guys out there. Rest his soul, of course. But a lot of guys I'm leaving out. But I have to go with James White. I think we can extend the list to maybe two. I'm gonna go James White and Anthony Davis.
Okay, those are great picks, and
Yeah,
frankly, not to say that
yeah,
how people respond on Twitter necessarily makes things good or bad or indifferent, but those two were two of the most commonly named, especially James,
yeah.
names who could have been on that list. And another one that I left off, and it hurt me to do so, but it was sometimes it just came down to stats and stuff. Was Brent Moss, who of course was one of my favorites. And rest in peace to
So
Brent. He had a lot of terrible things happen with him, but
yeah.
he was such an incredible teammate, such a tough player, such a talented player that he sort of gets like a special spot. He'll always be kind of in that on that mountain.
I like that. And I was gonna mention him, of course. I said rest his soul, but those three right there, right? And it's so tough to expand the list, and that just speaks right to the pipeline that comes to Wisconsin. But for me, I mean, again, we got John Clay who did great things, of course. But I just have to. For me, it's James White just because of his impact, his rookie year, his freshman year, right? I mean, he pushed me down the depth chart and rushed for 1,000 yards that season, and he never slowed down from there.
Well, you raise a great point. Uh, there was one Wisconsin team, and that had you, Melvin Gordon, and James White in the same backfield. I'm giving PTSD to Nebraska fans listening to this. I know I have a lot of them. Um, how does that work? I understand Melvin was a freshman that year, but three different style running backs, but three such talented running backs, any of whom could do the job. On a traditional team could be the bell cow. How did that dynamic work out?
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with. I got to give us credit, the players credit, right? Because a lot of the camaraderie, right, has to do with the actual players, right? How we respect each other, right? How we understood that. Look, I'm coming for your position. I'm coming for that starting role, but it's nothing personal, right? It's not like I want for you not to play. I'm going to root you on. I'm going to cheer for you. I want for you to get better. I want for you to push me. And that's just the camaraderie. That's just the respect that we had for each other. And that's why I believe that we were, and I'm biased, of course, but I honestly, I want someone else to challenge this, the best backfield, counting all three of us in the history of college football, because of the respect we had for each other, but also the coaching. Also the coaching. Got to give Thomas Hammock, right, a lot of credit for just being able to push us and really to be able to set that foundation for us, right? When we're having our running back meetings of setting that standard, this is how we're going to perform every single day in practice. And so for us, just to give a quick little example, after every single run in practice, we had to finish 40 yards down the field after every single run. Even
Oh
if,
wow.
and of course, there was only certain periods where it was actually tackle, right? Take down to the ground. So 98% of practice was never tackle. So even if you were thudded, right, for a TFL behind the line, you still had to finish 40 yards down the field. And then
Okay, so
even if it was hurry up offense.
that's amazing. So that way of practicing was effectively an exact replica of what we saw in the 2012 Big Ten championship game with Nebraska. It's what it looked like. There'd be a little bit of contact, and then whether it was you, Melvin, James, you would just finish the rest of it down the field. Maybe give a stiff arm as you're approaching the end zone, as some are wanted to do. But I can see what you're saying though. That mindset of playing through the practice clearly was manifested in game situations.
Yeah, it was always every all the players that you're going to speak with that you have already talked with from like my era is, I'm not saying they're not doing it now. I obviously only speak from my actual lived experiences. Is we wanted to make sure that the games were a lot easier than practice. That's literally what we would say is let's bust our butts in practice. I'm talking like every position knew that us running backs had it tough in practice because our running backs coach, Coach Hammond, first period was individual period, right? Where you're just with your position group doing your own specific drills. And what he would do for us is we would be exhausted after those 2 to 3 periods, literally exhausted, almost puking. Then practice would start for us. So we would practice extremely tired, almost puking after individual drill. So by time it came game day, I mean, we could run forever. We weren't tired at all, never tired. And so that's just, again, something that I loved. Obviously, I hated it in the moment, but, looking back now, I loved that we did that. And I think that just speaks volumes about the tenacity that we had.
Well, that's well said, and I know that I wasn't, of course, in the coaching. I'm always sort of in the room, Coach Alvarez, of course, as the deity that I am. But I know I wasn't coaching that. But I do feel some of those, hard driving practices and things like
Yeah.
that was sort of a legacy of the way that I ran the program back in the
Yes,
day. And
literally.
let me ask you this: let's turn. And I want to go back to the not the good old days, but sort of the old times where you were there. God, old times, 12 years ago. But Luke Fickle's there now,
Yeah.
and let me get your thoughts on Coach Fick and where the direction of the program is heading. Not necessarily a one-to-one comparison if they're running their people into puking before practice. Not that necessarily that deep, but just based on your observations as a former Badger or current, we're all current Badgers, but as a former Badger player, what where this is heading and what your thoughts are.
I mean, I'm never going to. I'm always going to shoot it straight, man. Spade is spade. Obviously, we've all been a little worried about the direction of the program the last, I guess, since JT left, right? Um,
Yeah.
since JT left, and I don't think we need to like worry or panic, right? We're spoiled fans. We're spoiled fans, and so, but I do obviously see that we're dropping obviously on our side of the conference, and unless we're literally dropping and dropping, and I think we have to do a better job, of course, of just making sure that we maintain that Wisconsin name, right? That Wisconsin just prowess in a sense. But let me get to your question. Sorry, I can go all over the place here. I I like Fickle. I do. I like Fickle because I do believe that that was a great pick. I do believe that the fans that were panicking from last season need to relax just a little bit, just to give him some time to let his recruits come in, to let his philosophy to really stick with the program. So I'm in favor of Fickle. I really am. And if the rumors are true that he's going for Vrabel, that's going to be something as well too. So that's a question I wanted to ask you since you have a seat at the table. You're the higher ups. What's going on with that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I will say when I saw the first reporting that Vrabel and the way that Fickle talked about it, and I think he's a straight shooter in many ways, but he's pretty
Yeah,
good with the media. He's pretty
yeah,
good at couching things. He was so ambiguous about it. The ambiguity about it is what first piqued my interest. Because if
yeah.
it's just we have this ex teammate of mine at Ohio State, we both played D line, we're friends. He happens to like coaching, happens to be not coaching at this moment. He's just going to come in and give me some thoughts on how practice is going. That's kind of how we put it. I mean, Mike Vrabel has better things to be doing with his spring than just hanging out with old friends, high five and having some beers after practice. I don't know exactly where this is going to go, if anywhere,
Right.
but I do say it. My eyes are on it.
Yeah, yeah, of course. All of our eyes are on it. I think that if anything, I think it's fun. I think it's really fun right now to be a Badger fan because it's always great to be in a position where you have a lot to prove. And I think obviously that's where we're at, especially with the teams that are entering the Big Ten now. The Big Ten is only getting more competitive, and then obviously with Alabama on our schedule this year, I think that again we have a lot to prove. And we have a chance to take down one of the Giants this year. And so for me, I'm excited. I think Fickle's going to be fine. I really do. I really do. I think this team is going to be able to turn it around. I hope it is this year. I do. But I can honestly see that coming in 2025 season. Given this coach, given Fickle 3 seasons under his belt, I think that we can really make some changes in Badger football.
Yeah, I think, and again, I'm always, and I like Paul Christ. He's a good dude, very
Oh,
good coach,
oh yeah.
really good coordinator. I mean,
Mm,
I'm not telling you he was only a coordinator. He ran a program that was highly successful.
yeah.
But those days of playing in the Big Ten West, getting Rutgers and Maryland as your crossover games, I think there was a little bit of headwind for the Badgers, some of those 15, 16, 17, 18 teams as far as the scheduling. Now
Yeah.
we're with the big boys. It's
Right.
just the way it is. So I've said previously that we're going to have teams as good or better than even a 12-1 2017 team who even have a chance at top 4 in the Big 10 in the new Big 10 with not just the crossover but bringing Oregon, Washington, UCLA, USC in. It's a whole new world.
It is.
And you must have appreciated in Fickle's first full class with him just as a coach, getting that three-headed running back monster in. And I'm not, these are 17, 18-year-old kids. No one can know what they or if they will become anything special in the college level. But seeing Fickle's commitment to the
Yes.
running back room and not getting one guy and saying, okay, it's going to be your backfield, getting three guys and saying, we're going to bring you in here. It's going to be a cage match. You guys are going to have to compete for these carries with some good established guys. They're good. That room still has guys coming in.
Yeah.
So, seeing Dylan Jones and Dupree and Aduka and knowing that any one of those guys might get 100 or 200 carries this year is pretty exciting.
It is. It is. And I think that again, you nailed it when we talk about the tradition, right? I think, of course, when you have a new coach coming in, and of course the word on the street, and we may have saw little sprinkles of it, but this what is it called? The air raid, I think they said, yeah, called it the whole air raid attack. It's of course something that Fickle maybe still dancing around, wanting to like truly implement. But of course, to your point, I think it was important that he still kept that part right of we have to make sure that this running back room goes. This team goes when this room goes. And in order to make this room go, we need to have high competition in this room. So you're going to get carries, you're going to get carries, and you're going to get carries. And whoever performs the best is going to get the most carries. And so that's what we did during my time. That's what you started whenever you, wanted to be a coach for the Badgers. And so I'm glad to see Fickle doing that. So that's why I'm not as worried. I'm really not that worried. To your point of these teams coming in, recruiting is going to be challenging. It is going to be challenging. But again, we're in a good position right now, good spot of we have a lot to prove. And I think we can only get better from this point. And so I'm looking forward to this season. But I think I want it to be this year, but I think the breakout year, I'm telling you, of Badger football getting back to where they are is 2025.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that's not to say we can't have success in 2024, but I
Right.
want to I
Right.
want fans to manage expectations because
Here.
with this schedule we got coming up, it's the hardest Wisconsin schedule in the history of the program. That is an undisputed fact.
I'm looking at it
So
right here, dude. I mean,
yeah,
sorry to cut
it's
you off. I mean, Alabama,
unreal.
you got Alabama and USC back to back. Come on, and then Penn State, then Iowa, then Oregon. Manage
And
that.
Michigan in there too, right? Is Michigan's not in there? I think
I do
maybe they
not
got
see
taken off.
Michigan.
Okay,
No.
okay. Well, my
Alabama.
my firm handshake and talk with the Big Ten commissioner paid off then because they took them off. But anyway, the point is raised though. It's an incredibly difficult schedule, and we saw last season the expectations were unrealistically high, and there's so many good, hardworking kids on that team last year. I don't want to denigrate the
Yeah.
team Chris left behind, but the cupboard was more bare than we thought it was, at least systemically. With what Fickle's trying to implement, some of the fits weren't necessarily perfect defensively with the Tressel defense. So I just think that the team that whether the record is good, and this could be a 5-loss team next year and still be one of the better Badger teams we've had. That's how crazy things are.
I agree.
But I do think 25 is going to be the year.
I think so too, and I think to that point, I think the biggest takeaway from everything that was just mentioned. One second, I gotta actually plug in my charger, but let me finish
Oh,
this.
that's sure.
I'm on my laptop, and I'm at like what 19% battery. But I think the biggest takeaway from literally this topic right here, I think you literally nailed it. Where it's like fans have to manage expectations, right? Manage expectations, and this is always a tough conversation to have because I mentioned it earlier. We're spoiled fans, and I'm saying we because I'm a fan, of course, and I'm spoiled. I want this team to always finish number one on our side and have a seat at the table in Indianapolis, of course. But we have to manage expectations. We have to understand that we're going to have growing pains with a new head coach, new philosophies, new everything, right? New recruiting. Then we have to throw in the transfer portal, right? How much that is a mess, nil deals, all of that jazz. And so I think that we have to manage expectations. But for me, I would bet my bottom dollar that we do lose 5 games this upcoming season, but 2025 season is where we make the splash.
I think I can live with that. And
Yeah.
also one thing that people and this is at risk of digging at my legacy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that a 4 or 5 or 6-loss season is okay. I think it's okay that the Wisconsin fan base is
Yeah.
appreciating. I can hear you. I know you're plugging it in.
Yeah, I still hear you. Sorry.
I'm attached directly to a power station. I have my own power station on my Caribbean wine island. That's where I am right now.
I still hear you.
But the reality is, if you look back at several of my, I'm not talking about the first couple of years, but even after the Rose Bowl in '93, several of my years, and even a couple of Bielema's, there were 5, 6-loss seasons there fairly frequently. And it's not that didn't mean we didn't have great teams, but I had a 5-7 team in 2021, just 2 years removed from back-to-back Rose Bowl win.
Yeah.
Where people say fire Alvarez, I wasn't any less of a coach then. The program wasn't in bad shape. We weren't getting worse recruits. Sometimes stuff just happens and it's weird. And so if Fickle were to follow up this season, 6-loss season, with another 6-loss season next year, the wheels are not falling off the program as long as we're seeing progress in competitive games. And I just want, and it could be better than that. It could be a miraculous season where we win one, you lose 1 or 2 games and upset Alabama and beat Penn State. These are non-zero possibilities.
Absolutely.
But as you're building a program, and as you saw in Cincinnati with Fickle, the way he built the program, it typically you don't find that ultimate success immediately or even in the second year, no matter what how good or how well regarded the program is.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't. And again, back to the manage expectations. We can't ignore how challenging the transfer portal has be how it is, right? This, and again, I'm falling back on the whole recruiting conversation, right? With these new programs, of course, coming into the Big Ten. Hopefully, we're allocating a lot of funds to the recruiting departments of flying out and going to Southern Cal and talking to these kids, or going to Dade County, Florida, and talking to these kids, right? Because obviously Michigan, Ohio State, the Oregon, when they come, those teams have that name. They have those bells and whistles to get the recruits, but I just don't want them to overlook Wisconsin. And so hopefully we're going to do the right things to get the right guys.
I think that's true, and I think that's something we are going to do.
Yeah.
Losing position coaches as we have this offseason, albeit one to Alabama and one to defending national champion, which you
Yeah.
can understand. So I'm not dissing on the guys who made the move. The Schlurns. I mean, you get it, and they both had raises, but you would like going forward to see Fick hang on to these guys. They both happen to be one, especially was a good recruiter, but they both happen to be pretty well regarded coaches.
Yeah.
Uh, but that's the price of success. I mean, you don't have an Alabama or a Michigan poaching your guys if you don't have the right guys in place, and that
Exactly.
I think is a weird backhanded testament to Fickle and his ability to put position coaches in there. And we'll see what happens with Vrabel. But okay, so I have to get a little bit of kind of lighthearted stuff. Who is your favorite Badger teammate and why?
My favorite Badger team. Oh
And
man.
I don't want to get someone mad at you who comes in second
No,
place. I'm just one of the top guys. How about that? Well, so you
no,
can
we
you can
don't. My crew of guys, we don't take it personally like that. Honestly, it would have to be it has to be James White. It has to be James White. We were roommates, and so off the field, of course, we were able to build a friendship, right? That had nothing to do with the sport of football. Learned a lot about him. He learned a lot about me, right? Late nights, just sitting on the couch watching TV or playing video games, right? So I think it's if some of my friends do get upset about that, it's like, look, we lived together. I think that should be able to explain it right there. But it has to be James, because that guy is obviously his success that he had at Wisconsin, and then of course the success he had as a Patriot. He still acts the same. This guy is the most humble person I think on the face of the planet. Having what 2 or 3 rings that he has, arguably the MVP of whichever Super Bowl was it against the Falcons. This guy has, not saying he should be cocky or should be arrogant, but he shows none of that. This guy will still send me a text back. I'll call him, he'll answer. Send me photos of his kids. So it's, to me, it's James White.
Well, that's great, and we'll see how humble he is when I ask him to be on the show. Haven't reached out to me yet, but we'll see. And humble, I have to admit, I had to look that up in the dictionary when you said it, because I've never heard that word myself. So it's not apparently it's not something I do, but that's okay. It takes all kinds.
Well, reach out to him. Reach out to him because he has a podcast now too, right? So I know you two can really hit it off with obviously marketing your shows and all that stuff.
We'll do the crossover show, and I agree. He absolutely was shafted on the MVP of the Super Bowl that year.
Yeah,
He was shafted
yeah.
for Tom Brady, I believe. Yeah,
Brady gave
whoever,
him.
whoever.
He gave him the truck though. Brady gave James the truck.
Well, that's nice of Tom. I hope Tom Brady lands on his feet. It's always tough to say whether he'll be okay, but we'll see. Um,
But
this
let me say this part though. I don't think James accepted it. So I just but I'll leave it at that.
Oh, okay, fantastic. I like that. He's humble and also has pride. It's both are good. Here's a question. I know we're kind of winding down on time here. We're kind of starting our descent on my G7. This is a question I haven't been able to ask any Badger football guests for a long, long time. What did it feel like to beat Ohio State?
Oh, I have mixed feelings. I have mixed feelings for my own selfish reasons. So and everyone who's gonna listen to this is like, okay, what the heck is he talking about? So that was in 2010, right, when they were ranked number 1.
Yep.
I didn't play a single snap that game, not one snap. Or did, if I did, it was like kickoff special teams maybe, but literally like 3 or 4 snaps of special teams. But of course, I was celebrating and super excited, right, that we beat Ohio State. But for my own selfish reasons, like, dang, I didn't get a chance to play. I didn't get the chance to literally just have a play where you know what I mean, of this game of this magnitude, right? And so, but it was a wonderful opportunity, wonderful experience from the kickoff from Gilreath to J.J. Watt's coming out party to James White, right, having some great runs, John Clay just doing his thing, and of course, O-line controlling the line of scrimmage. Phenomenal game. But for me, that's what upset me. That's what set a fire under me. And then come the next week against Iowa, I was able to get the starting position.
Yeah, we all remember that. So it's good. I appreciate your honesty. I mean, some guys who just kind of do the rah things. I was just happy to be there, a good team. You're a competitive guy and a
Yeah,
talented guy, and you believed. Know this. I mean, you believed you could help your team. It's
yeah,
not easy, although you're happy you won. There's no. I mean, I'm sure you were celebrating as much as anyone,
yeah,
but it's not easy to not want to be to not be able to be a part of that. And of course, your late touchdown. I believe it was the fourth quarter touchdown against Iowa and Iowa City the following week. Uh, was the game winning touchdown, and you all stopped Ricky Stanzi on that final drive, and
yeah.
that was actually of the wins of that season. You put Ohio State number one because it's number one, but that Iowa win really was a tone setter for showing what this team could be. 2 weeks later, you're blowing out Michigan and Ann Arbor, and I
Right.
really think this was just one of those things. A couple things bounced differently in that Rose Bowl and Rose Bowl champions too. That was kind of a missed opportunity, I think, but that's okay. It still was a fantastic season.
We should have won that out of the 3 Rose Bowl games that I played in. We should have won the TCU one. We should have won that one. But to your point, gosh, I love that season. I love that season not only for because of my coming out party in a sense. It was literally just like you said, right? That was a statement that we made to the country. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, taking down number one Ohio State, then beating Iowa in Kinnick Stadium. Everyone knows Kinnick Stadium is an extremely hostile environment. The fans are sitting on your shoulders, literally. Difficult team to play, especially when you're talking Wisconsin and Iowa, right? Almost identical defenses in a sense. So it was a challenging game, but we were able to do it. Then, of course, Michigan later and Northwestern. So, yeah, it was a statement game in Kinnick Stadium that I think propelled us to get to the Rose Bowl. And I think we carried that, obviously, in 2011 season and 2012 as well.
Yeah, there's some fun offenses to watch in that
Yeah,
era. Ones that I know we'll see it again. It's going to look a little different, but just putting up 70 in some cases, in one case 83 points on teams was just a
yeah.
different time, a different time. But we're gonna play a word association game as we finish up here, and I want you to tell me the first thing that pops into your mind when I say
Hold
these
on.
words or names.
Can I jump in real quick? I
Oh yeah,
wanted
yeah.
really quickly about the really close friend.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
2 guys. Then I'll stop talking about this.
No,
Chris
this is good. I'm glad it's better to do this now than later and try to explain it to the other guy.
Yeah. Chris Borland as well. That guy, he's actually the one who up this side coordinated this motion W for me of getting all the signatures. So that's a gift from Chris Borland. So that guy means a lot to me as well. And when I was inducted into the Hall of Fame, he kind of did the video for me. So it was wonderful.
And congratulations! That, of course, was last year into the Wisconsin Hall of Fame. That's a huge honor, obviously, as I know being in it. But big congratulations for me, and it was well earned and well deserved.
Yeah. it's, no, I really appreciate it. But yeah, let's do this. This is gonna be the fun. This
Yes,
is
yes.
fun.
And by the way, one take on Borland. I've said this in a previous thing. The path he took was not the path that a lot of people take either. Getting into the NFL,
Yeah,
being a starting linebacker for the Niners, having success immediately, and then making the unusual but very wise in his case decision to move on from football because
yeah.
the guy wanted to not have his brain scrambled anymore, and then being an advocate for people who are of like mind. I just he's a good and very underrated dude and was an incredible high energy player for the Badgers.
I tell you what, he's a better man than I am because if I'm a Pro Bowler averaging 13, 14, 15 tackles a game, whoo, that would be a tough decision. Gosh, to walk away from that. That's why I have so much respect for him,
Yeah,
because he saw the bigger picture. And so, but love the guy. Love the guy.
that's great. Okay, so here's some names, and this is
Yeah.
these aren't gotchas, but a couple of these are going to be, we'll see how this goes. First thing that jumps into your mind, though. Okay,
Okay.
PJ Fleck.
Well, Minnesota.
I have a couple other things that popped into my mind. Luke Fickle.
And this is the first thing that popped up.
No, it's okay. No, that's fun. That's Luke Fickle.
He looks. Every time I hear Fickle, I always see a Badger face in my mind. I don't know why. He looks like a Badger to me. I don't know.
That's good. That's good. We don't want him to look. We don't want him to look like a Buckeye or a Fighting Irish.
Yeah, literally.
Brett Bielema.
Brett Bielema. The first thing that pops in my head was I love the guy. We'd always have jokes with each other and stuff like that. But his nose. I'm sorry. Again, we always joke back and forth. An awesome guy. But that's the first thing that pops in my head. His facial features is just very strong.
He's a very unique. Yeah, he's probably as an ex-college player for Iowa, probably took a few bops to that beak.
Yeah. And trust me, he's not going to take any offense to that. He's a family friend.
He is the only. I will say this though, he is the only Division I college coach, football, basketball, otherwise, who has my Twitter account blocked. So I think that's unfortunate, and we'll figure that out. Better blocking than some of his Illini teams did this season. But anyway, we'll move on from that. Greg Gard.
Brett Gard.
Greg Gard, yeah.
Yeah, well, I just short. I think he's a firecracker. He seems like someone who's very strong-minded, like will headbutt you, but also, of course, doing great things for the program. So obviously, yeah, Gard as well. How are they doing this year, by the way? They
are. And no spoilers because they're playing right now, so right? But were very successful. They got up to number 6 in the country 2 weeks ago, and then had a 4-game losing streak, including a loss to last place Michigan in Ann Arbor, just brutal. And then they did beat Ohio State this week. Anytime you beat Ohio State in any sport, it's a good thing. So they're hanging in there. They're upper for the Big Ten, and they're also top 20 in the country. So it's been a pretty good season. I think his team has a lot of potential.
So yeah, whenever first thing that pops in my head when I hear Gard is just seems really tenacious, strong-minded, really strong-minded. So
he's good.
Yeah,
he's very strong-minded for sure, and people have very strong opinions on him. And then finally, Barry Alvarez.
Barry Alvarez, the Don, the Italian Mafia Dom, in a good way. That unfortunately has some negative connotation to it, but in a good way. I think the guy's awesome. Love Alvarez for what he's done with the program. I mean, without Alvarez making the sacrifice, right, to come over as a Badger, right, I probably wouldn't be a Badger. The pipeline wouldn't have started from St. Louis or Jersey of running backs. So it's the Don, man.
I cannot help but agree with you wholeheartedly that he's the man. Very good. Well, Montee, thank you so much for jumping on. We could go for hours here. Like we're still running against the Nebraska defense in 2012 Big Ten championship game, but I love when I come back to a joke. But thanks so much. I'm really pleased to see with how things are going for you, and appreciate your giving back to the community and all you did for the Wisconsin Badgers.
Yeah, I just wanted the last thing to leave it with. Of course, what am I doing now? I'm looking forward to either Q2 of this year, Q3, but I'll be launching my foundation, which one side of it will be a scholarship for teens that are in need of treatment, in need of recovery. So I'm looking forward to that. And then the other side is still developing, but I don't want to say too much about that one. But again, my foundation will be up and running either Q2 or Q3 of this year, and I'm looking forward to that.
That's amazing. Congratulations on that. And please keep us posted. We'll have you back on for an update on that. Is there a page or a website or anything like that you want to give us now?
Yeah, there will be. So website will be finished here in about 2-3 weeks, but it's going to be the MonteeBallFoundation.org is what it's going to be. And so that's going to be exciting. Let me make sure it's not live. I'm pretty sure it's not live, but yes. And so I'll be able to showcase all that and share all of that. But again, I can't thank you enough for reaching out, man, and for having me on. And
Love it. Love it. Thanks for jumping on and good luck with your foundation. And hey, don't be a stranger. We'll talk soon.
yes, sir. Thank you very much.